What if the most heavily guarded secret in Hollywood isn't a leaked tape or a hidden contract, but a 20-year marriage built entirely on a carefully manufactured illusion? They were Hollywood's untouchable golden couple for nearly 20 years, but a single statement from Portia de Rossi has just shattered that image forever. After months of staying quiet while the divorce headlines spiraled, she's finally breaking her silence. And the truth about what's happening behind closed doors is far more complicated than any of us realized. For years, the public saw them as the ultimate power couple, dancing through life, accumulating millions in real estate, and projecting an image of absolute marital bliss. But behind the bright studio lights and the carefully curated social media posts, a storm was brewing that threatened to destroy everything they had built together. This brings us to a chilling realization. What if the person you trust most is the very one orchestrating your public downfall? Tell me in the comments right now, would you be able to sleep at night knowing your partner's career was actively destroying your own peace of mind? When the toxic workplace scandal broke, accusing Ellen of creating an environment of fear and intimidation, the world watched in shock as the famous "Be Kind" brand evaporated overnight. But while the public debated Ellen's character, very few stopped to think about what this meant for Portia. Overnight, Portia found herself thrust into the role of the ultimate protector, forced to defend a spouse whose reputation was actively disintegrating. She posted a simple graphic online with the words, "I stand by Ellen," hoping to quiet the storm, but instead, it only invited more intense public scrutiny. For months, insiders whispered that the stress of the scandal was tearing them apart, with Portia allegedly begging Ellen to step away from the spotlight and focus on their relationship. But Ellen, a self-proclaimed workaholic, reportedly couldn't let go of her desire to reclaim her status. This fundamental clash of priorities created a deep wedge that no amount of public damage control could fix. Then, in an abrupt move that stunned their remaining fans, they packed up their entire lives and fled the United States, relocating to a secluded, multi-million-dollar estate in the English countryside. But was this sudden move to a remote English village really a political protest and a search for peace? Or was it a desperate attempt to save a marriage on the brink of total collapse? Tell me in the comments right now. Do you believe a change of scenery can ever truly fix a broken relationship? Or does it just pack up the problems and ship them across the Atlantic? Just when everyone thought the dust had settled in their quiet British sanctuary, a shocking report leaked from their inner circle that turned the entire narrative on its head. It wasn't just ordinary marriage counseling keeping them together. Ellen was reportedly utilizing extreme alternative measures, including hypnosis, to navigate their relationship struggles and prepare for a high-stakes Hollywood comeback. Imagine finding out your partner is resorting to subconscious reprogramming just to keep you from walking out the door. The revelation sent shockwaves through their remaining fanbase, raising immediate questions about the balance of power in their home. Why would a couple who allegedly conquered the world together need to resort to such drastic, clinical measures just to maintain a normal conversation? Portia had spent years silently carrying the weight of Ellen's public failures, but this new reality seemed to push her to a breaking point she could no longer hide. To understand how they reached this point, we have to look closely at the power dynamics that have defined their relationship since the very beginning. Portia de Rossi was an incredibly successful actress in her own right, starring in massive hits. Yet over time, her career took a back seat as she became synonymous with being Ellen's supportive wife. Insiders have long claimed that this loss of professional identity left Portia feeling isolated, a feeling that only intensified when they moved to the isolated Cotswolds of England. In a grand estate surrounded by sheep, miles away from the bustling streets of Los Angeles, the silence became deafening. Rumors began to swirl that Portia was feeling increasingly trapped in a gilded cage, while Ellen remained obsessed with planning her return to the spotlight. The public narrative was always that they were a united front against a hostile world, but the reality was a quiet, domestic Cold War over who got to define their future. But here is where the story takes an even darker turn. Sources close to the couple began whispering about a secret financial agreement that had been quietly updated behind closed doors. If they were truly happily married and building a quiet life together in Europe, Why were high-powered attorneys suddenly drafting new paperwork? Ask yourself, would you be willing to sign away your financial independence just to keep the peace? The updated financial documents reportedly detailed how their massive joint fortune would be split in the event of a separation. A move that tabloid journalists seized upon as proof that a divorce was not just possible, but imminent. For months, the headlines screamed about a pending multi-million-dollar split, citing anonymous sources who claimed Portia had already consulted with top-tier Hollywood divorce lawyers. Yet through all of this, both women remained outwardly silent, letting the rumors build to a fever pitch. This silence, however, was not a sign of peace. It was a strategic calculation. Portia knew that any public statement could either extinguish the flames or completely incinerate what was left of Ellen's fragile public image. When she finally chose to speak, her words were not the standard generic public relations denial that everyone expected. Instead, she dropped a bombshell that exposed the grueling emotional toll of maintaining a perfect facade. She confessed that living under the constant microscopic lens of public expectation had created an artificial reality where they were no longer allowed to be human. Think about it. Portia de Rossi gave up a massive acting career to stand in the shadow of Ellen's media empire. But what happens when the empire crumbles and the shadow is all that's left? Would you have stayed? Or would you have walked away long ago? Write down your theory in the comments right now. What Portia's sudden breakthrough revealed was a deeper, more unsettling truth about the nature of celebrity relationships. It wasn't just about the rumors of fights, or the alleged division of assets, or even the bizarre reports of hypnosis sessions in the English countryside. It was about the realization that their entire marriage had become a business transaction, a brand that had to be protected at all costs. Portia's raw admission made it clear that the pressure to maintain the image of the perfect, pioneering same-sex couple had become a golden noose. They couldn't just have a normal marital dispute. Any disagreement was analyzed as a sign of a systemic failure. The after-divorced narratives that dominated the internet weren't just harmless gossip. They were a constant reminder of the vultures waiting for them to fail. And as the pressure mounted, the cracks only deepened. The move to the United Kingdom, which was painted as a romantic escape, began to look more like a strategic retreat to hide the escalating tension from the watchful eyes of paparazzi. But you can't run away from yourself, and you certainly can't run away from a 20-year history of unresolved expectations. This brings us to the ultimate question that still hangs over their remote estate. Was Portia's decision to speak out a genuine effort to save her marriage, or was it the first step in a carefully planned exit strategy designed to minimize the fallout? In the end, Portia de Rossi's breaking of her silence didn't provide the neat, comfortable answers that Hollywood wanted. Instead, it exposed a complex, deeply human struggle of a woman trying to find her voice after 2 decades of silence. As the rumors continue to swirl and the headlines keep spinning, the true state of their union remains a high-stakes mystery behind closed doors. Whose side would you be on if the final curtain finally falls on this golden couple? Tell me your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to uncover more of the hidden truths behind Hollywood's biggest scandals, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss our next deep dive into the secrets the industry tries so desperately to keep hidden.